Okay, I'm going to pour, since the cork had a difficult composition, soft, I'm going to use this filter to catch any debris from the cork itself. The color is beautiful. And that's 19 years old. This is a 2004 Elizabeth's, that's why. Yeah. So that's what's surprising, is the depth of the color and the berries. Whew. Wow.
That's smooth.
Yeah, it's really smooth. Now, try it. Just pour it in this glass. And the idea behind, this is a Pinot glass, the idea behind the glass is whoever designed these determined that the shape of the glass will determine where the wine goes into your palate. And so therefore they'll show up the basis of the wine better. So curiosity. Does taste different. I find that so amazing.
But what do you mean by the shape of the glass?
The shape of the glass, the way it leaves your palate, enters your palate. Mm-hmm. So that theoretically puts it into the part of your palate which is the most sensitive to this style wine. Mm-hmm. In this case, Pinot. And with Pinot glass, or the glass in general, there's no lip on the edge of the glass. So a lot of times you get in a restaurant and you got a thick lip. Mm-hmm. That's really a glass you don't want to use at all. So anyway, this is just an example of what the industry does for the consumer, showing off the wine the best they can by the glass itself. And from a winemaker standpoint, that's really great because I like people to be able to detect the nuances of the wine. And that's what these glasses do. These are made by Spiegel or Rito. And we did our original tasting years and years ago, where we took into a glass seminar. We brought our glasses that we used in the tasting room, and my wife brought wine in our glasses. And she took it like we just did, poured it from our glass to the proper glass, and she came up and says, "You can't believe the difference in that glass." Mm-hmm. So that's what started our cycle. This is a 2002 Sharon's. This is a block down in a 6-acre block down in a canyon, which has a high aquifer, and the growing conditions are so much more significant and different than any place else on our property. And the reason is that the depth of the height of the water is so influential on the vine development that the vines keep growing and they just keep adding more and more flavor over time. So we get a whole different flavor than we do from the grapes up on top of the property. So, and this is a blend of 3 different grapes. A grape we call 13, a grape we call 2A, which is a Swiss clone, and a grape we call a Pomard clone. So it's a combination of all 3 of those. So it gives us some different flavors than everything else we have on top. So they're interplanted. And when we planted those vines, the farmer who brought the vines over commingled them. So instead of planting them 3 different areas, he planted them all together. So when I found that out, I was really upset. And so the first year when the grapes were growing, we took and color-coded each vine because they were ripening at a different speed. So they were, I can't remember, I know green and red, and I can't remember the other color. So we had to look at each vine and determine which one it was and go from there. But in the end, it turned out they all ripened at the same time, which was really interesting because the differences when we did the measuring was dramatic. So that's why I color-coded vines. So we spent a lot of time, but it didn't do us any good. So it's a really interesting combination of grapes. It's a whole different flavor than a typical Pinot Noir in California because of the nature of those 3 vines. Okay, so I'm gonna pour this, and I'm gonna use this again because I like the aeration process. And this is a wine for sure that we tried before, and we liked it better as it opened up. Didn't like it at first, but then when it came around the second time, when we tried it later, about a half hour later, the vine really opened up. Now that's unusual to me because this is 18 years old, and the fact that it still needs aeration is quite surprising. So that's a 2002 Sharon's. Wow, really?
I love this one.
This is real. No, I didn't like it at first when you did, but now with this, it's really opened up.
My favorite.
Yeah. The fruit is more predominant, and it's more elegant as it finishes.
Do you like it more the second time than the first time, you said?
Oh yeah, the first time I tried it, we tried it a while ago, I didn't like the flavor profile. And then when half an hour later, after we got through all the tasting, the fruit showed up and expanded and it got tasty. But now, pouring it into this glass with the aerator, it made that a difference. Yeah.
Very tasty.
It's lighter, but it's a different year, so the year makes a difference. Okay, I want to talk about the difference between a Magnum and a 750. First of all, it's the beauty of the bottle. This etching is very, very phenomenal. It's from a package of a gift, hard to improve on. And so many people that have bought these in the past have just kept the bottles around empty because they look so beautiful on the shelf. The difference between the style of a 750, which is 750 milliliters, versus this, which is twice the size. The difference being that the amount of oxygen in the bottle is the same for both. So the longevity of the Magnum will be much greater than the longevity of a 750. And the difference is because the oxygen levels is the same. So the oxygen being distributed over a larger body allows us to get a longer life. Now, in spite of that, when we bottle each wine, before we put the cork in, we hit it with nitrogen. The idea that it kicks out the oxygen if there's any in there in the process of bottling. So that helps as well. But the difference in aging, this will age a lot longer. I can't tell you the amount of time difference, but the aging characteristics of a 750 versus a Magnum versus the bigger bottles is dramatic. The aging is much longer. Light in color. And this comes in I'll talk about it in a second. Let's taste the wine first. It's really got a bright red color, which is really surprising for a 19-year-old wine. I mean, the color depth is phenomenal. It's just still a really bright red. Wow, great nose. Yeah.
Sweet.
Very. This wine could be decanted for 4 or 5 hours and really improve the flavor. I think I'm gonna try and just aerate my glass to see if I can get a change. See if that makes a difference. Wow, releases.
So sweet.
Yeah, a big aroma change.
Like a juice. For me, it made it less it's less powerful.
It's not as tannic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what decanting does, and in this case, we got a proper glass. It's got a bowl shape. It allows us to get the exposure to oxygen, but just that 30-second shape. That's.
This one was impressed me.
Yeah. And this is available both in a 750 and an etched Magnum. The advantage of the etched Magnum is because the amount of oxygen in both bottles is the same. So being that this has twice as much body, the oxygen impact will be even more negative than this one. So this one would be a must for decanting, just based on our sample of the 750 bottle. Cheers. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.